on that journey with them. Hear, hear.
Flick Drummond.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and it is a pleasure to speak again in this debate on International Women's Day. Embrace equity is the hashtag this year, and whereas we're getting to equality of resources and opportunities, equity recognises that each person has different circumstances and we may need to allocate different resources and opportunities to reach an equal outcome. So I thought I would use this debate to highlight the work being undertaken to promote tech and STEM careers to women and girls, one of the themes of the 2023 International Women's Day. Careers in STEM is something we keep returning to because we're not still maximising the potential of women in these industries, even if there is equality in provision and training. It has not been accessed equally, so we need to examine why. I have several interests in this, chiefly through the Women at Work APPG. I co-chair with my honourable friend for Birmingham Yardley, who has just left this chamber. But it's also true that we do work together across the House in many ways, as was been mentioned earlier. But also my interest comes from my work in the University Technical Colleges, an education model offering transformational opportunities to young people. And finally, my interest, like many others, lies as a mother and a grandmother now. Thank you. Yes, I have 3 grandchildren. I have been a strong supporter of UTCs since they were first introduced, and I was instrumental in encouraging the establishment of my local UTC in Portsmouth. Every young person interested in a STEM career should have the same chance to have an education that a UTC provides. Yeah. This should include coding within the core curriculum in every school. But most UTCs are now oversubscribed, sometimes 10 applicants for every place. So I'm backing the Portsmouth UTC to launch another one in the Solent region, as it will help many of my young constituents access an amazing route into STEM careers. Last week, I visited the London Design and Engineering UTC. Girls make up 36% of the intake, and that's fairly typical of most UTCs overall, and 51% of teachers in UTCs are women. I hope that number increases to nearer 50% quickly. Applicants for next year are 50% female, so there is some progress at last. Absolutely.
The figures that the Honourable Lady is citing there are really, really interesting and obviously a great empirical example. But I wonder if she has any thoughts on how we might have achieved 50% of the tuition or tutors being female, but, dare I say, only a third of the students being so. What's the difference between those two numbers, in her opinion?
Well, quite interesting. I think there's 65% of secondary schools have women as teachers, so it's slightly less in proportion. But having met the female teachers in the UTCs, they're all incredibly highly skilled scientists and mathematicians, like my honourable friend for Chelmsford here, and also my honourable friend for North Devon is also a mathematician, so we have them in here as well. But it's a shame because we're sort of putting them in here and not actually out in the community where they could be teaching the next generation. A third of UTC female graduates go on to STEM destinations. Some 70% of girls go on to higher education compared to 55% of boys, and 24% of girls went on to apprenticeships, mostly at level 4 or higher, against just 4% nationally in other schools. But the fact that only a third go on to STEM destinations should raise alarms, though. This year, the Women at Work APPG published our report on the cost of women in work. We had a lot of input from the tech industries and some shocking statistics about women in tech. In 2017, PwC discovered that only 3% of women said tech would be their first choice. This is shockingly low considering the good salaries and prestige that comes with the industry. The top 5 most valuable brands are tech companies: Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon and Meta, for example. 78% of students could not name a woman working in technology. And probably that's not surprising because since there are only 26% of women, 26% in the tech workforce are women. The tech industry has produced awe-inspiring, life-improving inventions, but it's also contributed to a growing online misogyny and gadget misuse, including spy cameras and stalking. But surely having more women working in the industry would help lead to tech being better adapted to women and more work to combat the negative aspects for women.
Will she give way?
Absolutely.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. I'm sure she would be interested to know that the theme of this year's CSW meeting at the UN was women and the impact of technology, and I know that she had wished to be there herself, but that this issue of trying to make sure that technology works for women was absolutely key and a highlight of the global conversation. And the point about needing to have more women in the tech sector working on developing new technologies was reiterated again and again across the world. So what she's saying is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and also the impact on education in perhaps more remote countries, what even in Afghanistan, we would hope that people can actually access education through tech. So if we can get more women working in tech, we could then provide education which maybe even the Taliban would agree with.
She's been very generous with her time. May I say, first of all, how much I agree with her last point there on Afghanistan. And indeed, I was hearing some particularly powerful anecdotes from Street Child charity only in a meeting last night on that point. But the question I wondered if I might just probe on is whether her APPG and whether others that she is working with have broader thoughts here on the future of work and whether there is an avenue here to have a wider debate about women's interests in that. Not that I believe that there is any such thing as a woman's interest in a ghettoised form, but I wonder what her thoughts are on that.
Absolutely. I set up the APBG in 2015 with that sole purpose that we would change policy towards the barriers to women in work. And we have, over each year, produced a report which my honourable friend I will pass some copies to, because we cover the whole gamut of women in the workplace. And this year we have been focusing on tech, which is why today's debate is so important. We do need to change the way that we use the internet, and having more women at the top will help, because we need to be more inclusive, and as we've just said, that will help in education around the world too. But careers advice must push tech as an option. Tech companies must link in with schools and provide mentoring, and it will take time, commitment and long-term investment, but it will make a massive difference to our productivity. There are mentoring programs for women already in the tech industry, and they're proving successful. Cornell University has estimated it could lead to a 15 to 38% increase in promotion and retention rates for women, because, as I've said, there are very few women at the top of tech companies. So it is good to have a day when we can focus on how far women have got in so many areas, but we've also heard some very harrowing speeches today as well, and so it's great that we can encompass every single aspect of what it's like to be a woman. Tech must reduce its barriers to women, to use it effectively and to enter it as a career, and then we can really embrace equity. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you.